Hey guys, today I wanted to wrap up what I read for the Bout of Books 15 readathon, and if you saw my TBR video, you know I was being pretty ambitious. I wanted to read all 7 of the Chronicles of Narnia books, but unfortunately I only got to the first 4, which I'm still quite happy with because on an average week I only would have read one of these. Now I do want to talk about each one of these individually, briefly, but first of all I do have some general thoughts on the Chronicles of Narnia as a whole. First of all, I actually forgot how strongly this series draws from Christian themes, and I have a renewed understanding of why this series is not some people's cup of tea. However, I don't really think I picked up on that at all as a kid, so if you're worried about indoctrinating your kids or something, if they read this series, I wouldn't sweat it. My second thought would be that if you're an adult who maybe hasn't finished the Chronicles of Narnia or who has never picked them up because you think that it's a series written specifically for kids, I would say go for it. Pick it up anyways. There's honestly so much in here that I was not aware of when I was a kid and that I really picked up this time upon rereading them, and I think that there really should be no age limit for this series. And lastly, I know there's some debate as to what order you should read the Chronicles of Narnia in, and that's mainly because they were first published in a different order than they are often labeled in now, but what I did was just basically follow the numbering on my specific editions. These I got in a box set that was printed or published by Scholastic Press, and they have numbered the books 1 through 7, with the first being The Magicians Nephew and not The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which I believe was published first. So to get into the actual books, like I said, the first book in my collection is The Magician's Nephew, which follows a young girl named Polly who lives in London and befriends a boy named Diggory who moves in next door with his aunt and crazy uncle. Polly and Diggory get into quite a few adventures and quite a bit of trouble actually when they accidentally find themselves in Diggory's uncle's study. Diggory's uncle confronts them there and reveals that he's working on a magic that can transport people to other universes and sends the kids off on an adventure. This is set sometime before The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and actually is kind of the story of the creation of Narnia, so I can totally understand why this is often placed as the first book in the series, because it really makes the most sense to me to read first. If you do read this one first, I think it gives you a really good introduction to Narnia, and you actually know more about Narnia than some of the characters in other subsequent volumes. Then we have The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is of course the story of the Pevensey siblings who come through a magic wardrobe and find themselves in wintry Narnia. They meet Aslan the lion, they take on the evil White Witch, and they liberate Narnia from endless, Christmasless winter. This is definitely the most well-known of the Chronicles of Narnia, and I don't think I could evaluate this one objectively in the slightest because I'm just so very nostalgic about the story. To me, this is all things children's epic fantasy where all of the mythical things exist, and if there's one that I return to again and again, it's definitely this one. Then the third one in my collection is The Horse and His Boy, and I probably have the most to say about this one, and it's not all good. This one is set during the reign of the Pevensey siblings, so when they are kings and queens at Cair Paravel, and it takes place in Calormen, which is basically a large empire that neighbors the kingdom of Narnia. This one follows a young boy named Shasta who discovers he is not actually the son of a poor fisherman, steals a talking horse, and together they make a break for Narnia and freedom. Along the way they meet a girl named Aravis who has her own talking horse, and they join forces to save the day. To start off with some positive things about this, I thought it was the most fully fleshed out story of the Chronicles that I've read so far, and I think that's mainly because a lot of the Chronicle books they have a lot of build up and then all the action is really crammed in at the end. But this one I felt had enough time to really expand, the action was well developed, and then you kind of got to see a little bit of the aftermath, which generally he just kind of plops you down at a sudden ending point. So plot and structure wise, this is probably one of the better Chronicles of Narnia books that I've read so far, but I just had a really hard time reading about this Middle Eastern-esque culture that C.S. Lewis creates. Like I said, it's called Calormen, which to me was too close to colored men, and then there's just like a lot of stuff about fat rulers who sit on cushions and they lay on the floor, and they've got curly whirly shoes and funky mustaches, and the women get carried around by slaves and their silks and perfumes, and it felt a little bit too much like Disney's Aladdin, if you get my drift. So all in all, I only gave this one 2 stars, mainly because I felt the problematic aspects of it outweighed the good plot structure, but that's just me, and I would just end by saying I'm really glad they didn't make a live action version of this one. And then the last Chronicle of Narnia that I managed to read entirely was Prince Caspian, which of course follows a young Prince Caspian who is the rightful king of Narnia thousands of years after the Pevensies have returned to the real world. The Pevensies help Caspian defeat his uncle and usurper King Miraz, and they basically help restore Narnia to the grandeur that it once was and return it to the talking animals and mythical beasts. I really enjoyed this one mainly because it's more similar to the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe than any of the other ones I read so far. A lot of people read this one directly after the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which I think you could do, but chronologically it is actually the 4th book. And then in the final hours of the readathon, I picked up book 5, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, but the Golden Globes came on and all reading came to a standstill, so I only got through 1 chapter. So all in all, I really enjoyed diving back into the world of Narnia, and by finishing these 4, I've actually finished my rereading, and now I'm on to books that I haven't finished or read at all. I will be finishing the rest of the Chronicles of Narnia this month because there's only 3 left, and I now know that I go through them very quickly, and I'm really looking forward to finishing the series. I'm kind of sad about it, but you know what? I reread a lot, so I can always go back and visit again. So that was what I read for Bout of Books 15. I had a really good time, and I did participate in some of the challenges, so I will put my blog post update in the description in case you want to check those out. If you guys participated as well, please let me know what your favorite book of the readathon was, and if you had a good time as well. I hope you all did. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you next time. Bye!